So when it comes to co-writing, you and your co-writer, Jason Inman, have written Jupiter Jet, and now we're doing science together.
Yes. We also did, one page in Love is Love, and we co-wrote Red Shirt Diaries together.
And what's it like working with a co-writer?
It's the best because you have an editor all kind of rolled up in one. You kind of have someone doing all the basic checks and balances, and hopefully you have someone who complements your style and who has strengths where you have weaknesses. I really like writing a lot of dialogue because I started writing as a playwright. You can find a bunch of plays I wrote when I was 16 published in Canada if you really want to. And that's not always the best trait to have in comic books, especially in YA or all ages stuff. Like, you want an economy of words. You don't want to drown a book in word balloons unless you're maybe doing a political, like something like Letter 44, right, which is all about politics and the American government. It makes sense to have more words. So that's a shortcoming of mine, and Jason is someone who gets really buried in the details, and I'm better at just like, okay, we'll get the first draft and then we'll fix it later. So I really enjoy it because I think I like him. I married him. I think he's great. But also I think our creative styles complement each other, and I think working with him makes me a better writer, so that when we do diverge and do things on our own, I would hope that because we collaborated and fought, and sometimes that's what happens, that we're better as individuals as well.
You learn from each other. You take the good and you say, this is what works, and you guys have different styles, but you guys learn and take from each other, and that's kind of the process.
And I think for comics, it makes you a better collaborator, because comics is very, it's a group. If you want to be a singular person, you can write novels. You can even writing in television, you're working in a writer's room with, 10 other people. So I think it's also a good exercise in cooperation. But it's not for everyone. I'm not necessarily advocating that people do that instead of working individually, but it's something that I really love.
Absolutely. Now, who's your artist for the science comic?
Our artist for science is a cartoonist from Portland named Des Pittman. She's really known for her zombie portraits. We tabled beside her at Wizard World Portland earlier this year. Science has been the gauntlet of trying to get an artist to stick with the project. Our original artist who did our original concept art almost 2 years ago, she's in school, so she wasn't able to commit to it. Our second artist left. Our third artist didn't hit their deadlines. So sometimes with Jupiter Jet, we got Ben right away. He stuck with us through the whole process. We were very fortunate. Sometimes it's a little bit harder. She's someone who, as soon as we met her and we tabled beside her, we knew we wanted to work on something, and we were very fortunate that she had an open schedule to explore doing this book with us.
That's super cool, because it's super important to have someone you can work with that'll hit their deadlines, and it's super important that you're responsible and you call out that person for missing a deadline and say, listen, I can't do this if you're not working, if you're not actually taking this seriously, because you have to keep going out there. I've talked to so many creators who want to make it in comics, and they say, I have such a hard time working with an artist, but you have to say, listen, you got to find someone who believes in you and believes in your work, and keep that relationship going, and remember to stay in the forefront of their mind, because sometimes they'll be like, okay, we'll do it in 30 days, and then 30 days will go by and they'll go, oh, I had another paid gate come up, so I have to jump on that. Oh, I have another thing. And so it's just like you said, that's what it takes.
Speaking from experience.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've talked to so many different creators who've had these problems, and it's something that a lot of people give up because of, and it's something they shouldn't give up. They should continue to go out there and hunt for people at conventions, on DeviantArt, on
Tumblr or Instagram, and you'll find someone who will work at your page rate. Every project I've worked on has had vastly different page rates on what we can afford to pay the artist, either up front or on the back end, and you will find someone at that page rate. It's whether or not you're willing to look for it. I'll say this, having worked as an editor and having worked on a couple of projects now, every artist is going to draw at last minute. No one's going to do anything early. You just have to know that going in. I don't know what is up with artists, but they all work at 3 o'clock in the morning in between bouts of coffee. So you have to accept that. And some people fudge their deadlines, some people don't. It's just like a marriage. Communication is the most important thing. And I think on both sides, like, I don't mind an artist missing a deadline as long as they tell me why.
Absolutely.
Stuff happens. Des, our artist on science, had a wild allergic reaction, so she missed her second deadline. All she did was send us an email that said, "I'm in the hospital. I'm sorry, I'm going to miss my deadline." Like, you're
Yeah,
not a monster. But,
no, definitely not. You can even send that after you're out of the hospital
truly,
and being
yeah.
fine. It's like, what happened? Oh, I was in the hospital. You get a pass there. That's you just communication is really key.
But it's when it's every deadline or someone's never getting back to you that it becomes problematic, and you don't want to have to put your foot down. But with these projects, we're the people in charge of the money, we're funding it, so it becomes a difficult relationship when they are people that you're friendly with, because you're also kind of their boss. But I think you can't forget that. It's also like when you're working with reps, like managers or agents, you're their boss, they work for you. You have to be nice about it, but that's an important thing to remember.
Absolutely. It's a definitely, you have to work with somebody in a very respectful way, and at the same time still, like, put your foot down when it needs to be put down.
Yeah, and hopefully you're collaborating with someone else who's tougher and scarier than you, and then he can send the emails and things are really bad.